Well. Hello, everyone. How's everybody doing? It's been a minute since we last saw each other here virtually. I hope everybody, let me know if this sound is working for you guys. I feel like I'm having a little bit of an echo, but if you are in Instagram, welcome. Um, it's great to see you here. Let's see if I can maybe mitigate this. Welcome. Wow, technology is something incredible. Well, I want to welcome you all. It's Wednesday, December 27, and the year is almost done. And I wanted to take a moment to have this virtual space for us to have a conversation. Before I begin, I also want to acknowledge that we are on indigenous land, the Tuvenga, Chuchmash, and many others here in Los Angeles. And they are the caretakers of this land before we arrived here, and also our water. I also want to acknowledge that they care for our water, especially here in Los Angeles, that comes from the Paiute territory in North Lake. So if you are watching on Facebook, feel free to add your comments on the chat and or your questions, and I'll be able to bring them in as you know as they arrive. If you are on Instagram, you also can do that, and all of the channels right now we are streaming live from Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, X. My God, it feels weird to say it, from X, and also from Instagram. So if you, maybe want to switch to any of those platforms, feel free. You can go to Aura Vasquez Official, and hop on in there. Maybe there is a better way for you to watch this live stream. All right. So I have a few notes for you guys. And for some of you that have been following my career, you know that earlier this year I decided to run for city council in District 10 and embark in this incredible journey, this crazy journey that is running for office. And for those of you that don't know what my district is, it encompasses places like Koreatown, Mid City, Little Ethiopia, West Adams, Leimert Park, Crenshaw, Jefferson Park, Harbor Heights. Did I say Little Ethiopia? Pico Robinson South, and the last redistricting, the district that it went farther even as to closer to homes. So yes, that is it's a big territory. There's about 250,000 people in this district, and of all sorts of walks of life. And I couldn't be more proud to be working to make this community better. So tonight we're going to spend, let me just check the comments that nobody is saying anything and I'm not paying attention. Hello, welcome everyone. Um, Today we are going to be talking about some important topics as it relates to emails that my constituents or people in the community email me about. So I'm going to be reading some of those very shortly. If you are not yet in our email list, please get in it as soon as you can. And you can go to my website and let me see if I can maybe bring it up. It's out for the people. There you go. We got it going on here. Out for the people .com and learn more about what this campaign is and how to get in touch with us or how to get on our email list. We don't email a whole lot, but we do when we do email, we try to add value to our readers and to the broader community here in Los Angeles. So, thank you. All right, guys. So let me get into it because there have been a few emails that we have sent that I have received from members of our community in three different topics: homelessness, housing, and safety. The third one is a bonus track, as I like to call it, for all of you, which was what is your Christmas wish or your holiday wish this holiday. So if you have, if you have any thoughts about that, just also post them in the comments. I welcome you. This conversation is always better if you guys also participate. So be sure to write whatever thoughts that you have in the comments, and and we can dive deeper. So, and some of the things, and I'm looking for these emails that I have got that I have prepared for you guys. In some of these conversations that I had, one of my main, and I'm expecting somebody to come in to the stream, and a housing lawyer that has some anecdotes to share with us as it relates to District 10. Um, but let me set the stage by saying that in the past months or in the past years, we have seen an increasingly hostile environment for renters, and some people argue that this is necessary, and it's been very heartbreaking to see some of our most vulnerable people is struggling with making ends meet, especially after the pandemic, and having to face themselves with the hard decisions of figuring out if they can stay in their homes. So we're going to talk more about that, shortly. But I want to just say that I am a renter, and an important part for me in this fight or in my campaign is to make sure that we have more affordable housing. When people ask me about this all the time, I'm like, how are you gonna do it? And where are you gonna do it? Or with who? There's a lot of ways for us to take advantage of the current resources that we have to prevent also homelessness. As you know, our homelessness crisis here in Los Angeles is not um, um, it's not homogeneous. It's um, all of the unhoused folks in our community are not the same. Um, so unfortunately, it makes it extremely hard to address this issue when we don't really have a comprehensive idea of or a general idea of what our unhoused community needs. And some people argue that what they need is more homes. Some people argue that they need more services. I recently this week saw an article saying that as much as $700 can really transform people's lives. And and $700 is not much for somebody per se a month, but it can make an incredible dent or change in someone's life. But I want to share that for me, preventing people from getting on the streets is also helping them stay housed. And that's like super important. The city council less than 2 months ago agreed to increase our rent for people like in my home where I live that are rent control apartments. They are they're now we're gonna have a rent increase starting February 2024 by 6%. So I don't know if you guys knew that, but these are some of the things that are, really making it hard for people, especially in a post-pandemic era where we have seen um, folks really struggling with, getting by. Maybe they have hospital, um, maybe they have hospital bills, maybe, other things, but but it's been a rough year. So while we wait for our guests, I want to bring some stuff in for you guys. Okay, let's see. So let's see what I got going on here. I mean, I feel like I can read these emails for days and days, and it's like the story of so many people. Like for example, this person that um that mentioned that they live um in Section 8 and that they have problems with the dilapidated buildings. And this is one of the topics that we're going to talk about, especially as it relates to one building in Korea, where we see often, maybe the buildings are old, maybe they need repairs, and they use the innovation to evict renters. So it's pretty hard to you know to see these news as it relates to renters. Okay, so here it goes, guys. All right, so we have um one of the things that I want to do is protect existing affordable housing units. And I am really, and this was a very triggering comment, I guess, that I made for people when I did. Um, people people ask me reversing the erosion of low income, of low rent control and sectional. I just got an email from a constituent yesterday expressing that she is disabled, not super like not like extreme disabled, but she is disabled, and that she has a roommate, but she's for the rent, and that unfortunately the um, Section 8 is being closed to get Section 8 for somebody like her is unavailable. So for me, it's about working with the county to make sure that we expand Section 8 for people that really need it. We just saw the devastating news of a baby die on the streets of Los Angeles by LAX. How devastating is that? So for me, this is like super important to protect existing affordable housing units, um, so that we can all have access to, to good housing in our district. The other part is lower regulatory barriers. I think it's important that zoning and a lot of other things are done in a way that is enhancing our housing stock instead of adding to the bureaucracy of it. But there's a lot more. Um, I want to start since we are in the topic of protecting existing affordable housing. I wanna welcome Angeline, who is an attorney, and she's gonna come in just a second. Please help me welcome her. And if you guys have any questions or any comments, please post them in the comments. We want to see all the comments. Post hearts, or no, I don't like it. Post, I don't think so. Whatever. Post all of these. Post it in the comments so that we can have a conversation. Um, Somebody said here on Instagram, I am broken and you are the gold that heals my wounds. Thank you, an enduring queen. I appreciate that. Then somebody says, I'm an RSO, which is me too, rent control. Tenant, and I'm getting hit with 6% inclusive plus inspection fee. Yes, my friend, starting February of 2024, this is gonna hit all of us. So with no further ado, let me welcome Angie. Angie, please unmute your mic. I see that you're still muted. And welcome to the live stream. Hi.
Hello. Hi, folks. So I'm here this evening with Aura to talk sort of about the state of housing in Los Angeles and particularly in District 10. I've been working in District 10 and sort of helping organizers build campaigns and sort of offering a legal perspective for a couple of years now. And I'm really happy to be here. So I don't want to take up too much time or lead it in a direction that, is not correct. So you tell me what you want to do.
Okay, awesome. Well, welcome. I'm trying to let me know if you're hearing a feedback. For some reason on my end, I'm hearing a feedback, but I think it's just probably me. It's just me. The feedback? Okay.
Yeah, it's good on my end.
Okay, it's good on your end. So I want to first welcome you to the live stream. Thank you so much for bringing this up. I think you and I spoke earlier, and this is not like the first time I have heard what you told me, which is the conditions where some people live. And I'm gonna really try to show our broader audience what's going on. But I think the first thing that I would love to hear from you is tell us about who you are and who you work for.
Sure. So I decided that I wanted to go into housing, particularly in Los Angeles, after working with ACE, which is a great organization that I'm sure a lot of you folks have probably heard of. And if you haven't, I would recommend checking out the work that they do. I think that they do some of the most powerful organizing in the state, and particularly in Los Angeles. So got started with them and was running clinics with the legal director and the legal team, who are all based in the Bay Area. So a very different sort of landscape from what we have here in Los Angeles. Did a lot of work with the tenant anti-harassment ordinance. And now I work at the Housing Rights Center in Koreatown in the eviction prevention program, doing sort of a number of different things, including limited scope services and sort of counseling and advice for, I do hear that feedback. A number of different things. Oh boy. Are you still hearing the feedback, Laura? Better? Is it better now? Thanks. And have noticed from working in Koreatown and organizing in the 10th district, just the amount of really awful housing conditions and really awful kind of gentrification and pushing out and illegal buyouts of long-term District 10 constituents who have been, I have met with people who have rented their apartments multi-generational. They had their kids in their apartment and their kids had their grandkids in their apartment. And now they're faced with being either illegally evicted or priced out. despite being under the protections of the rent stabilization ordinance. So that is kind of what I do. And yeah, so if anybody has any questions, or if there's any, I know that Aura wanted to talk a little bit about a building that I've been doing some work at, and trying to get some folks some help in Koreatown. So we can talk about that, or we can. This is your show. I'm here to
Yeah.
support.
Thank you so much. I think what I wanted to start, just setting up who you are, and, and some of the work that you do. And you sent me some pictures that were so devastating. I'm trying to pull them up here on the live stream so that people can see them. Because when you sent us to me, I couldn't believe, I was like, is this an abandoned building? Like,
No.
I just couldn't believe that someone would be living in those conditions. So
Yep.
until I can pull these pictures up, at least one picture that is like devastating to me, I want you to like describe in the best way that you can, what are some of the conditions? And earlier you were so kind and skilled to explain to me what happened at this particular place. And for
Sure.
the people that are listening to this live stream, I want you to think about there's so many moments where we have met neighbors, where we know people that are going through something like this. Because I know that this situation, specifically in this building, is not unique.
Yeah.
So can you please kind of walk us through what the building is? Like, one of the things that I asked you earlier was, is this rent control? When was this building built? So that people can start getting the real picture, or the true picture of what these living conditions are. And I'm going to try to bring the pictures at the same time. So
Okay.
go for it.
So where I work now at the Housing Rights Center in Koreatown, we have the ability for people to walk in, to find our office and appear with a number of housing issues, and either speak with one of our counselors, because we have a full-fledged counseling department, or if they happen to come on a day when the either attorneys or legal fellows are there, then sometimes folks can speak with us as well. This building came to my attention because a gentleman came in off the street who's a 35-year resident of Koreatown. He has lived in the same apartment for 35 years. He pays $345 in rent a month. He is a Korean War vet who lives in his apartment with just him and his cat. He doesn't have any family. He doesn't have much of a social network. So when he started receiving really scary eviction notices, 3-day notices from a law firm in Studio City, he was really frightened. And as a lot of people that I encounter, I think any kind of notice from your landlord talking about terminating your tenancy is really scary, and can feel really world-ending if those notices are written by landlord attorneys who are skilled at making people frightened with the intention of getting them to leave voluntarily. So this gentleman came in, showed us the notices, explained that there had been a fire in the building in October. And since the fire, he had been getting these notices, and was worried that him and his cat were going to be kind of like thrown on the street. So I, sort of to the chagrin of my supervisor, walked down the street and went and looked at the building, and chatted with some folks there, and determined that since the fire in October, all of the tenants who live there have been sort of subject to a harassment campaign by the landlords via their attorney, who has been attempting to get people to accept illegal buyout offers. So for folks that aren't that familiar, long-term residents in rent-stabilized apartments in Los Angeles if they're being asked to leave due to no fault of theirs, are able to collect relocation amounts. And to not overcomplicate it, the landlord at this building is trying to say that they are not responsible for temporarily relocating the tenants at the building, despite the housing department telling them through written orders, you must temporarily relocate people while the building gets fixed. The conditions at the building are something that I've never seen before, and I feel like I've seen quite a few properties that were sort of surprising. This is the worst. I would say.
Like tell us, Angelina, like what? Because again, I'm trying to pull the pictures. Unfortunately didn't get them so that I could like show people. But I'm talking about that this place looks like it was being demolished. When you send me this picture, I got the feeling that it was being demolished. So just give us the picture of what the conditions where people are living.
Yeah. So conditions were not good before the fire in October. They had a long history with the housing department, citing them for a bunch of code violations. But since the fire, I mean, when the fire department goes in because there's an active fire, that they're obviously not caring about how they're putting the fire out, and so there are holes in the ceiling that you look up in the hallway and you can see the sky. The landlord came in after they were ordered to make an urgent repair and put a tarp over the holes in the hallway. That tarp has failed. So while it was raining a couple of weeks ago, my elderly tenant with his cat was busy collecting all of the rainwater in the hallway and hauling it down the stairs to toss it in the alleyway behind the apartment to try to save the hallway from flooding. There is a permanent, it smells like a smoker. Like if you walk in the building, it smells like you are inside of a barbecue smoker. There are many kids that live in this building. I would say most of the 19 units have little kids in them. So there's a lot of coughing. There's a lot of respiratory issues. It is about as bad as it gets in terms of habitability and conditions that are suitable for folks to be living in.
Wow. Okay, and how many residents live in this apartment?
There are 19 units, and 2 of those were red tagged after the fire, which means that the fire department said these folks have to be immediately evacuated. So there are now 17 households that live there. Still there.
Incredible. Yeah. I'm going to try to bring up, guys, this is very high tech for me. So I'm going to try to bring up the pictures, but, stay with me. But this is one of them. I don't know if you can see more or less like the conditions. I think what matters is for you guys to see the devastation that, is in this particular home. So this is somebody's apartment.
That's one of the apartments, one of the 2 that was red tagged. So fortunately, folks are not living in this one, but the holes that you see in the ceiling are very much the same in the common area hallway.
In the majority.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And then we have this other one, which is the outside.
Yes, this is
the patio or so.
Electrical situation, the wiring that is on the back of the building.
So it's like unsafe wiring that we can kind of see here. I don't know if you guys get to see. I'm trying to make the pictures better. And then this book is holding what?
That's holding a window open. So Los Angeles says that part of the housing code is that windows have to open independently and close independently. They can't have to be held open like that because it's a safety issue. I would say everyone's windows are not functional.
Got it. Okay. Well, wow. So what's next for these folks? What's next for these tenants?
Yeah. So things unfortunately have gotten worse for these folks. In addition to the rain, the week before Christmas, so on the last day that my organization was in the office, everyone was served with evictions with unlawful detainers. That included some bonus causes of action that you don't usually see in those lawsuits,
Mhm.
in an attempt to get a quicker order from the court to get people. I'm trying to think of like how to say this in the simplest way possible. The landlord's attorney was trying to get people forcibly removed from the building last Friday, so a couple of days before Christmas, and thankfully that was not successful on her part.
Mhm.
And now we have until the 12th to figure out what's going to be filed in response to get these people the justice that they should have, and a hearing of their legal rights.
Um, somebody is in the comments is stating, what can the let me see if I can share. How can others assist and support our community, this community?
I mean, these folks need they they really need organizing help.
Mhm.
I know that ACE is doing some organizing. I don't know. I don't think that they've gotten enough time there to build a really strong base.
Mhm.
But any amount of sort of organizing support or media attention or anything to make it clear to the folks that either electeds or the housing department that these 17 families are not on their own, and that Los Angeles and in District 10 is aware of what's happening, and isn't going to let them be, you know, um, summarily removed from their homes. And a lot of these folks have lived there, like the gentleman that I talked about earlier. He is not the only long-term resident. There are folks who have lived there for decades.
Wow, that's this is incredible to me. And like I said, I get these type of messages all the time. Like when we send emails to our to our community here. I have an email newsletter, and
Mhm.
I always ask people what's going on, and they always respond, and it's always so heartbreaking. I get a lot of I'm bilingual Spanish, and I try to make my emails bilingual too, and
Sure.
it's incredible to see how many people email me back in Spanish
Mm,
saying, you seem
yes.
like you care. So let me share with you a little bit about. So some of the perception that people have about folks that live here in these conditions and in apartments that are low income and such is that that is time for them to go, that is that they have they pay very little rent, especially landlords have this idea like, well, if I can turn it. So when people ask me about how are you going to stop the erosion of rent control and low income units, I always tell them like, by stopping it, like literally by stopping it, like by intervening and working with the community members and with renters to stop landlords from evicting. What are some of the things that you would like to see? I have some ideas, by the way. Like some of the things that I want to do as a councilwoman is to, we have a relocation fee already, which is wonderful. We kind of have right to counsel, but we don't have enough counsel. We don't have enough lawyers, so we need to strengthen that. But the other piece is, do we have a mechanism where people, okay, let's say that they have to leave because it's terrible the conditions that this building is in, but do we have a mechanism where people are asked to leave, but they will be first to come back at the price or at the rate? Is there something like that right now in the city of Los Angeles?
Yes. So for folks like these folks in this building, if it's a temporary relocation, then absolutely. It depends on the type of order. It depends on what's happening to the building. So if it is a temporary relocation, or if they are doing some sort of substantial remodel, depending on a number of factors that I don't want to get too into the minutia of it, because I think I will fall asleep if I start talking about it. But yes, there is a right to return. Your tenancy is not terminated if you have to be temporarily relocated. The problem is that the housing department will tell landlords you have to do that, and they'll provide them with orders. And if the landlords, like in this scenario, through their attorneys, say, actually no, our argument is that this section of the municipal code does not apply to us for X, Y, and Z reason, the housing department comes back, in my experience, and says, well, that's what they're supposed to do, but we don't have any enforcement powers.
So the issue is enforcing the
Yeah,
law.
they say, well, we've told them that they have to follow the law, but we're not a legal entity. We can't sue them, or we can't, bring them in front of a judge. That's what you folks are supposed to be doing. So figure it out. And I think most people know that, the court system is not exactly the most efficient way to solve issues that are emergency issues, and that are affecting people's ability to remain in their homes, or to have permanent shelter. So that is, the enforcement component is very challenging for all housing issues in the city of LA.
Okay, so people in the comments are saying, I know K-Town for All is a great volunteer organization. People are also saying in the comments, whoa, horrible situation. When would the greedy landlords be rich enough? Is the LA Tenants Unions, worth joining?
I know a lot of folks who are part of the tenants union, and I know somebody who was a big part of passing Measure H in Pasadena, and that was largely passed because of how powerful the Pasadena tenants union is. So I think the Los Angeles Tenants Union is huge. It is huge. They have a record amount of members. And I think that a lot of people find a lot of support and a lot of solidarity through joining, and being kind of taught how to organize their independent buildings. I wish that was a good option for a scenario like the one that we're talking about this evening. But unfortunately, when things are this bad and it's already far enough along that there's active litigation, it's not as useful as if this was a year ago and there had been no fire, the conditions were just bad. Then I would say absolutely, I would check out the tenants union. I know that the Koreatown Tenants Union is really, really active and has done a lot of really, really cool stuff in terms of fighting evictions and fighting illegal lockouts. And
wonderful. I know some people are saying, Robert, let me bring the comment in. He's saying we need to abolish landlords and have housing cooperatives and community land trust. And that's always a great way. Like that's one of the pieces of my platform. How do we incorporate more rent to own practices? We don't always have to be renting. I think, one of the pieces for people of color for upper mobility is own your land, own a home, and leave something, something for future generations. So I think community land trust and housing cooperatives are extremely important. Down the street from my house, that is something that is 4 apartments, and everybody owns their own apartment, but they all live in like one building. So it's kind of like a cooperative, but I think they call it a different way. So do you have an estimate in your practice of how many people are going through these type of living conditions in the city?
Um, I mean, I would say to this extent, I think this is fortunately not blanketly the case. These kind of conditions are just really egregious. Um, but I would say that on a weekly basis, I chat with folks who are walking in from not just Koreatown, but a lot of different parts of the city who have habitability issues. Um, Either I've seen everything from bed bugs to a lack of heat, which in California the landlord is required to provide you functional heat. Landlords like to not or pretend that they don't know that part of the law here in Los Angeles, which is upsetting because here in LA we have more people who die due to cold exposure. I mean, at least for our homeless community here, than cities like New York and Chicago.
Mhm.
So living in a crappy apartment with no heat is not can be really unsafe for older folks, for very young folks, for immunocompromised people. Um, but I would say that I probably speak with at least 5 to 10 tenants a week who have significant habitability issues where they live.
Wow, wow,
Yeah.
wow, wow. It's a real uh, it's a real issue. So what would be the best outcome for these 19 these about to be displaced families from this building?
Yeah. I mean, the best outcome is to attempt to have some kind of motion ready by early next month to either have the entire lawsuit thrown out and kind of force the landlords to start over, or at the very least to make sure that none of the folks in this building get default judgments and have an eviction on their record when they shouldn't have been subject to it at all. But I mean, this is a scenario where the landlord is responsible for temporarily relocating folks, but it's likely that the building is probably not going to be fixed. So this is a problem in Los Angeles of buildings that are so old and so decrepit, and landlords have not done any kind of upkeep, because when they acquire the buildings, they look at the rent roll and they're not making any money. And so
Mhm.
there's no incentive for them to perform maintenance, and they let things really, really go so they can eventually do something that's like a tear down.
And it's so heartbreaking because I think we can all agree that the bare minimum that we can have is a place to live that is decent,
Yeah,
that has a good roof, that is clean, that doesn't have roaches and,
yeah,
rodents, that it doesn't matter who it is. It doesn't matter that you're tall, curly hair, blue hair. It doesn't matter that you're white, green, blue, black, brown. If that the bare minimum that we can ask for as humans is to have the fundamental right of have housing.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know, and and I think that when I like to bring this perspective, because a lot of times people feel like, oh, well, they don't pay a lot of rent and it's cheap. And you know, guys, I mean, like, everyone should have the basic right to have a place to live that
yeah,
is safe, that is sustainable,
yeah,
and allows you to live a healthy life.
yeah, yeah. No, you're absolutely right.
I
And
don't think people are asking for a lot.
no, no,
And these pictures, I'm trying to bring the pictures back so that people can see them. There's a picture there that I cannot get out of my head. Like, it's so devastating to see, and forgive my lack of graphics. It's hard to do the live stream and show like different, but friends, can we talk about this? Can we talk about this? Like, my God,
yeah,
why?
yeah. It is.
It's just. it's just so devastating
Yep.
to see. Let me remove the banner real quick so everybody can see what we're looking at here. This is someone's apartment. This is someone's apartment, friends. Like, why? Like, there's no, I mean, not even, this is not okay.
Yeah. Well, and
No.
folks are also receiving notices that are, I would say that the building's probably 90% monolingual Spanish.
Mhm.
And some of these folks are monolingual Spanish, but also have difficulty reading written Spanish.
Mhm.
And I was told by one of the chief inspectors at the housing department that I would need to make a public records request
Mhm.
to have folks receive the notices from the housing department in
In
Spanish.
another language.
Yes. Yes.
That's rough.
Yes.
That's
After I
really,
asked, were these provided in Spanish? Oh, I don't know if they were. It was like, well, they need to be. Well, then you should make a public records request. I was like, well, if they were never generated, then, but okay, sure. I'll just translate that. That's fine.
and it makes it so hard. And to the best of your knowledge, do you know who these landlords are?
Yeah. These folks are it's about 5 men who own a number of buildings in Los Angeles. They've changed their names or the name of their LLC a few times. They they several years ago owned a bunch of commercial buildings
Mhm.
in the like warehouse buildings in the um, kind of close to the garment district and downtown near the arts district before it was what the arts district is now, where they had residential tenants in buildings that were not meant for residential tenants, and they got in trouble over that 10 years ago. Um, but the housing department, I guess, has just forgotten about that being a issue before with these particular landlords.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. Well, how devastating. Okay, let me see if anybody has any other comments or any other questions for you. So, if we want to support the efforts, where can we go? Who can we talk to?
Um, I think that the if if you are interested in providing support to the folks at this building, letting Ara know, who can let me know, and perhaps we can organize. I do know that ACE was planning on doing some sort of press conference or an action at the building, and perhaps teaming up with them to provide support would be really useful. Of course, you can always show up at City Council to do public comment. I have mixed feelings about how successful that is, but it is a thing that you are willing to do, and I think Aura can speak to the importance of going and showing up to do public comment. But if you want to help, they need help, and they need certainly more help than I can provide.
Absolutely. I am just devastated to see that this is the way that we're treating fellow neighbors.
Yeah.
And again, I don't think Koreatown is the only place where this happens in Los Angeles. So if you know of someone, or if you are going through something like this, please let us know, because I think that this is how we build a movement. I know that ACE, for example, which is another wonderful organization, does beautiful work with tenants, and they have done a lot of actions and a lot of successful work, around, around tenants, organizing. So, if you're going through something like this, you're not alone, and it's incredibly courageous what you are doing and what you are going through with these folks. I'm getting, here I can see some of the messages, saying, this is shameful, the conditions and for people to live in. I mean, I don't wish that to like my worst enemy, you know?
Yeah.
Okay, we have a lot of comments out here on Instagram. We have part of being landlord is making and taking care of the property that people have contracts to rent out of. Yeah, I mean, it feels like, a lot of people feel like renters have too much rights, but I also think that the lack of enforcement by our officials, the lack of, the overpowering, disproportionate, power
Right.
that renters and people and landlords have is, it is notorious right now,
Yeah.
If I volunteer to make a bunch of instructional videos on handling the situation, do you know an attorney who will help pro bono? Somebody asked that question.
I think that there's a few folks who are thinking about jumping in that are private landlord or tenant attorneys. I don't know if anyone is familiar with Claudia Medina, but she's done a lot of work. I know that she's partnered with the organization that I work at HRC in affirmative fair housing cases. So I think unfortunately, like, I think the legal side is probably okay for now. This is more about the stuff that courts can't do, which is more powerful in the end than any folks in a courtroom can do. In this, at least in my experience, and in this scenario.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, thank you so much. You're going to hear from us again. I know that my beautiful community, my social media community is very active. This isn't our first rodeo. We have been, I have been organizing for many years in Los Angeles around the environment, getting a layoff of coal, which I had to stand strong against polluters and the fossil fuel industry, to protect our health. So I'm very familiar to the struggles. And, my promise to you and my promise to the broader community is that I'm here to support and to help and to try to bring more attention to this situation. I love the idea of an action. So if you are into it, put a little heart in the comments and let me know that this is something that you want to do. And send me a DM, a direct message, or message me somehow and let me know. If you're going through something like this, please let us know so that we can build a bigger movement around renters protections and the lack of living conditions that some people are living in. What else are we missing here? And I think what I would like to do is, again, start organizing for a broader movement, maybe get a petition and hopefully bring attention to something like this. They're not alone. And this is something that we have to, bring attention to. So I appreciate so much you bringing this perspective. I hope that this is not the first and the last that you're going to be here. Got to come back and give us an update.
Here's hoping. Yeah. I mean, folks, if you find yourself with some time over the holidays, make some phone calls to your councilwoman, because, I'm not getting any calls back. So maybe you folks might.
Yes, it really is devastating to see this. Okay, I got one last thing, Angeline. You're not the one who drives the pink Corvette, right?
No pink Corvette here. I have a very embarrassingly orange Prius. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't even drive a car, so that should be it. There you go.
Sorry. No.
Helping the environment and helping the the traffic and pollution and so many other things driving my little Vespa. Angie, thank you so much for being with us.
Absolutely.
And please come back anytime, and you and I'll be in touch.
Okay, great.
And everybody here that has been watching this live stream will be in touch with you.
Great. Okay. Thanks so much, folks.
Have a great night. Bye-bye. All right, friends. That was Angie. And she really let us know what's going on here in Koreatown. And as I said, this is not the only case that we see. I would love to invite other folks if you want to come and share your story, give your testimonial here the people in my community, come and share with us your burden and your struggle, so that we can, work together and really address some of these issues, not just in a systemic way, but also as a community. We can come together and and support one another and really strive to be part of an ecosystem that is that cares for one another, and that is deeply committed to each other's liberation, and to also support our broader mission to live a healthy and a prosperous life, here and wherever you are. So if this message resonated with you, thank you so much for joining in. I so appreciate having you. If my campaign is something that you feel compelled, please join us. In January 6th, we're going to have Dia de los Reyes, or the Three Kings celebration, at a restaurant here in our community, and it's going to be our campaign kickoff. So I hope that you can come and make our campaign kickoff amazing. We have been talking to voters now for a few months, and we have been, working with the broader community District 10 to let them know that one of them is running for office. So, I always say that we might not have all the money, but we have the people. So please join us. Don't forget, save the day, Saturday, January 6th, which is the Three Kings Day at 9 a.m. We're going to have some very delicious Mexican, traditional Three Kings celebration food, which is like roscas, the reyes, and ponche. And we're going to have toys for the first 100 kids that come to our event. So bring your kids and let them know that we're going to be there, and that they can, be part of the celebration. And if you are interested in being part of this campaign, please join us. We're going to start, our 2024 canvassing time also in January 6th. What else? Oh, before I forget, if you live in the city of Los Angeles, please, please, please donate to our campaign. You can go to auraforthepeople.com/donate and help us get all the money from the city matching funds. More than ever, we need your resources. We need resources for to get to every voter in our district. So thank you so much, and I appreciate it so much. Don't forget, donate, come volunteer, come to the party, get into it, because we're so excited to have you be part of this movement for a better, more sustainable, and more resilient, more transparent, and more accountable Los Angeles. All right, you all. I see you very soon, and thank you for tuning in. Bye-bye.